Greetings and welcome to another episode of Let's Play Neverwinter Nights. With Malcolm, Erikson, the Paladin, leading a party of one. Yay! They're so happy they can finally go back to the biggest nest.
Hello there!
Yeah, just leave. Just stop crowding the scene and all that. You want to leave? Just leave.
Well met!
Nah, I don't want to do anything with you.
Greetings!
No, you're not important. There were other people here, hiding from the plague one day. Oh yeah, over here.
Do business to ya?
Yep.
Greetings!
You don't have to do that, but I like doing that anyway. Gives me a feeling that I've accomplished something. And that's really all that matters, doesn't it? Feeling like you've done something. Hail Erebeth.
Welcome back.
I was about to make a joke about the weather report, but it's not really the right season for that.
It is but one small step towards our ultimate goal, but it gives me hope. And I know with your help, Neverwinter shall yet be saved.
I have recovered one of the reagents for the cure.
Well done. I knew you wouldn't let me down.
Let's explain about the Yuan-Ti in the beggar's nest.
I heard of the trouble in the beggar's nest. This malevolent thing was behind it, as if the plague was not enough. Where others have found only failure, you have discovered shining success. Neverwinter is in your debt.
Indeed it is.
Battling the plague has drained the coffers of Neverwinter. I regret I cannot offer you more than 500 gold pieces for all you have accomplished.
Thank you, Erebeth. You are most generous.
Is there something else you need?
No.
Farewell.
Because I need
One
to
of the
talk to
bards
you.
here in Castle Never is composing a song to honor your adventures during the recovery of the second reagent. I believe I heard Lord Nasher himself humming the tune in the halls. People are beginning to take notice of you.
I require your services because I have more crafts to sell, like the Gul'dan's journal, the crumpled note, the prison logbook, because I really don't need it anymore. Well, that I'll need. Don't need the short sword. And Torrent's ring. I don't need it. I can't sell it either. I'll just hang on to it. I'll sell this warhammer, this scimitar. And I don't think I have anything else in my inventory. Getting a nice key collection. It's not worth it, but I might as well just sell these. If I had a full set of them, it might have been worth it, but as it is. Alright, let's go talk to Judge Olaf Uska.
Greetings to you again. It is good to see you return to this house of Tyr.
I hope there's been progress with the search for Halloweth Never's tomb. It frees the spirits of the city. I have an artifact from one of the tombs. You do? Wonderful. Please tell me what it is you have found. I'll describe the recovery of the ancient chronicles of Never. An excellent find. Neverwinter will benefit from learning about its auspicious origins. Perhaps you can find historical precedent for the plague as well. As I said, you are to be rewarded. Here, take this 200 gold. It's not much, but there's more to come. Your efforts are appreciated. A light has been cast on Halloweth Never and his life, but there is still more to find. There are further artifacts of his travels. Return to me if you find them. I shall reward you fairly, plus more when they are all recovered. I shall return if I find more. Here guide you to justice. Indeed. Justice and wenches. Not necessarily in that order. Alright. Now, before I go to the docks, of course, let's go see if the henchmen are willing to talk. Of course they're willing to talk. Tommy was willing to talk.
Hello.
Hello all. Thanks for waiting here. I have returned. And you can wail against me with your fine stories. I probably should talk to Tommy again first though. Just to see if he wants to talk more now that I've delivered Gul'dan. I don't think he will.
Look!
No, he's not in the mood. Alright, let's talk to the rest then. Daelan Red Tiger.
Waiting for you.
Yeah, come with me.
Yes? Is there something you need?
I just want to talk for a while. My strength is in weapons, not words, Malcolm. I want you to continue your story from before. In the time we've been together, you have respected my request for privacy, Malcolm. Now I feel I am ready to tell you the rest of my tale. Yeah, I've respected your privacy so much. You've been in his place all this time, and still you consider traveling with me. Yeah, it almost reminds me of actually using the henchman system from Neverwinter 2. When you actually do have your full party with you at all times, you can just swap out whoever you want. Which makes much more sense. Anyway, I mentioned my exile to you before, Malcolm. The truth is, I did not willingly leave the Uthgard to come to Neverwinter. The tribe cast me out. I'm a monstrous half-breed. As a child, it was obvious my blood was tainted. I was violent and savage. It was only because of my pleas of my mother that the tribe did not slay me as an abomination while still an infant. What about your father? I never knew my father. My mother never spoke of him, though I saw the pain in her eyes whenever I asked. But where the pain came from, I could not say. Some in our tribe said he was a vile beast who forced himself on my mother during our raid. Others claimed my mother loved him and welcomed him to her bed, then wept when he was murdered by the warriors who discovered them. The truth, I shall never know. For I died with my mother last winter. At her death, the tribe cast me out. Can you blame them? Why waste good provisions on a half-breed bastard yet to prove himself in the world? Someday you'll prove yourself and they'll learn to accept you. It is as you say. Until I prove myself, the tribe cannot be certain where my loyalties lie. Once I show the spirit of the Uthgard is pure within me, the Red Tiger tribe will welcome me back. And it is not as they abandoned me in the cold. They gave me food and weapons before they sent me out into the world to prove myself. And a sacred talisman of the tribe once carried by my mother, Ulysses. Forgive me, Malcolm, but I cannot speak of this anymore. It's too painful. Just tell me how you have to prove yourself to the tribe and we'll do it. I thank you for your kind offer, but there's little you can do for me right now. Please, Malcolm, things I said before. The words were, "This is not the time to speak of such things. Perhaps later I will speak more of this, but not now." Fair enough, Jowin.
I suspected
You're
you'd
up.
show up here.
Yes? Is there something you need?
I just want to talk. Continue your story from before. I suppose I did offer to tell you about my family, didn't I? Very well then, Malcolm. I'll tell you. By my family I actually mean my mother. She's the only true family I've ever known. I never met my father. He and my mother parted ways before I was born. Mother was an adventurer, you see. A mage, in fact, of some skill. This is what other people have told me, however, as mother would never discuss it. She left that life behind along with my father to marry a man of wealth. You don't sound as if you approve. Perhaps not now, but I didn't know any better then. My mother considered her past nonsense, as she had much more important things to think about. My mother wanted wealth. She wanted to live a life of fine jewelry, of carriage rides, and fine mansion in the Black Lake. Her husband was a means to an end. She left behind her magic and instead spent her life spending money, far more money than my stepfather could ever afford. She didn't care a whit for his complaints so long as she kept providing her coin. Well, there's your problem then. When he died unexpectedly, she was devastated. Not because he was gone, but because he left behind a mountain of debts. She was terrified at the thought of being poor. What about you? Were you saddened by his death? I never really knew him, to be honest. My mother kept me quite distant, shuttled me from one private school to another. She formed a desperate plan. Although she rarely saw me when I was a child, now she had need of me. I was a comely young woman, and she would see me wed to a wealthy bachelor. Not for my own benefit, of course, but for her own. I was so meek and accustomed to being ruled over her, I couldn't even conceive of an objection. My mother had her eye on the young Lord Farrington. He would never stoop to marry poor nobility, however. Not unless he desired me. I would have to seduce him. Did you? I had intended to. I went to Lord Farrington's estate to attend a party being held in his honor, my mother meaning us to meet. When we arrived, I was awestruck by the size of the hall. There were so many people dancing, I could barely take it all in, and the music was so beautiful. I stepped onto the floor and approached the man my mother pointed out. I was very nervous, but the man was handsome and kind and witty. I fell in love with him immediately. My mother grabbed me away from him angrily not long later. I had mistaken her directions. It was not Lord Farrington I had danced with, after all. It was far too late for my heart, however. I take it your mother wasn't happy about that. She was furious, naturally, since I never got to meet Lord Farrington. She was even worse when it was discovered who I had met. His name was Daelan, a penniless apprentice bard in the service of Lord Farrington. I was utterly in love with him. My mother told me to forget all about him. I couldn't, however, despite the possibility we might never might lose everything. Well, love can do that. I was young and blind and hopeless. I fell for the first man who showed interest in me. Not that my mother had intended for that to stop us. I had a choice, obviously. Take the path I was expected to, and seduce Lord Farrington, or run off with the penniless bard. I should have done one or the other. As it turned out, I made a mess of everything. Being a young fool, I suppose that could be expected. I'll tell you what happened sometime later, perhaps. Let's just continue on with what you're doing, shall we? Well, let's move on to Grimnar.
I have been waiting for you. I suspected you would return. Do you need me to join with you once more?
Oh, yes, sure.
Is there something you need?
I just want to talk for a while. Really? Conversation is one way to pass time until the Silent Lord comes to claim us. What do you speak about? I want you to continue your story from before. Very well, Malcolm. I have been reluctant to speak of my time at Mithril Hall, but you will not let the matter rest. When Bruno Battlehammer reclaimed the throne at Mithril Hall not 20 years ago, it kindled a fierce racial pride in all the dwarves of the north. I was one of the many who flocked to Brona's hammer, one of the many who came to battle the denizens of the Underdark and drive them from the mines beneath Mithril Hall. But they wouldn't accept you, would they? This was long before I joined the Order of the Long Death, and at first Maestro Hall welcomed me, for even then I did not fear death and was eager to inflict it upon my enemies. There were many among Bruno's followers who shared my love of battle and the reckless fury with which I assaulted my foes, but none of them appreciated the terrible beauty of what was all around us. Have you ever heard the glorious chorus of screams of dying drow echoing in the chambers of a dwarven mine? Or paused in battle to taste the palpable spectre of death descending upon the field like a cool mist? Have you ever stood over a dying comrade, drinking his pain and fear as his life bleeds away, gazing into his eyes to glimpse the terrible understanding of shining through? In the final instant, death claims him. Ooh, you couldn't put any more commas or points in periods in that sentence, could you? Can't say I had the pleasure. After the battles I would walk among the scattered corpses, fascinated by the truth of their deaths. The others found it disturbing, I knew, but I couldn't stop. The compulsion was too strong. And as I wandered amidst the twisted, mangled bodies and gazed into the masks of agony forever frozen on their faces, I understood. Drow, dwerger, dwarf, in death we are all the same. In death we are all perfect. I tried to share my revelations from my brothers in arms, but they could not understand. They only looked at me with horror and disgust. They were weak, Grimnar. They couldn't dare to face death like you. I am obviously kissing ass here, so I'm not agreeing with what he is saying. I left Mithril Hall shortly after my revelation in search of something. I found the Order of the Long Death. I suppose I cannot blame my fellow dwarves for their reaction. The acceptance of death is not easy. Even among my order there are those who cannot face the Silent Lord when their time comes. What do you mean by that? I'm sorry, Malcolm. I should not have said anything about this to you. This is a matter that must be solved by those of my order. You can tell me, Grimnar. Maybe it's something I can help you with. This is not a time of speaking of this, Malcolm. Let us return to our mission. The Silent Lord's hunger will not be sated by mere words. Yeah, well, you would come over here a little bit. No? Alright, on Linu.
I hoped that you would return, so I waited here. I've hardly damaged anything since you left. I thought you'd be proud. May I join with you once more, my friend?
Yep.
Hey
Nice.
there, dear. What can I do for you?
I just want to talk. I love chatting with you, but don't you think we should focus on our mission right now? Tell me more about your story. I appreciate that you have waited patiently to hear more of my story. I think we have gone through enough together to warrant a deeper level of trust. I just ask you don't make fun of me, since this was such a dark blot on my name. Many years ago a cleric performed a service for the people of Evereska by uncovering a drow plot to destroy the city. The Seanin Moonbow came and presented the priest with a silver goblet. And what was stolen? Yes, the thief stole it right out of the temple and managed to sneak out of Evereska. No small accomplishment there. The other priests were frightfully mad. Only the head priest was willing to concede that it could have happened to someone else. But of course it didn't. It happened to the person that broke the head of the golden statue of Coralon. I didn't know what to do, so I stayed up all night, praying to Seanin to guide my path. The goddess heard my prayer, and just before the first ray of light broke the dark, I was granted a vision. What happened in the vision? I saw myself leaving Evereska and going on a long journey. At the end of the journey I returned with the chalice. The trip itself was a blur. I had no idea where to go, other than north and west. Well, that's kind of vague, isn't it? And I don't even know where Evereska is. When I told the priests of my vision, that would take me far away from them. They held a cheerful celebration in honor of my sacred quest. It was the first moment in my life I felt I truly belonged. I am not making fun of you, Linu. Yes, I'm sure they were very happy for you. But now they will never welcome me back to the city. My quest has failed. Surely it has not failed. You'll find it someday. No, you do not understand. No one will ever understand. I shall be an outcast for life. Please, Malcolm, I should not have said so much. We'll talk more about this later. But not now. Alright. And I know the time has come, but I'll finish this by talking to Boddyknock, Klinkle.
You're back, so you must need something. The most logical assumption is that you want me to join up with you again, correct?
Yes. And
is there something you need?
I just want to talk a while. I am a staunch proponent of free exchange of ideas, Malcolm. What is it you wish to know? Now let's continue your story from before. You seem quite interested in my time as an apprentice on the Profero, Malcolm. I suppose we can afford a few minutes for me to recount those days for you. Profero instilled in me the basic principles of magic and the underlying laws governing the arcane. His knowledge and wisdom were an inspiration to me, though his organizational skills were somewhat lacking. What do you mean by that? I would constantly stumble across magic items carelessly strewn about the tower. Potions and elixirs from half-finished experiments would be left sitting out on the kitchen table. Ancient scrolls he had been copying would be stuffed on the cushions of his chairs. Wands would turn up in closets and drawers. And he never, ever locked his laboratory despite the countless powerful magic items and dangerous experiments he often dabbled in. Alright, I'm sensing something Mickey Mouse happening. That's not an endorsement from you, Disney. Don't take the money from this video, please. You must have found that quite a temptation. I admit, seeing all those potions and wands and scrolls just lying around was difficult, and I must confess that eventually I did give in to the temptation. I just snapped! I couldn't take it anymore, and I did something rash and completely out of character. I waited until my master left on an extended trip, and then I cleaned up Profero's laboratory. I just love how Boddyknock is actually practical. That's such a rare trait in mages. They're never ever practical with their plans, but he is. And I'll just put in my thing in the charger for a moment, if you just excuse me. I organized the scrolls and potions and wands. I built shelves to store the magical components of his research, and I made a catalog card system so he could cross-reference all of his tests and results. Items that were particularly powerful or unstable I locked safely away in a magically reinforced chest with a key that I presented to Profero on his return. That's it? You cleaned up? What can I say, Malcolm? I was young and foolish. Profero's own reaction was similar to yours. He couldn't believe what I had done, although he did continue to use the filing system I had set up for him. You had all that magic at your fingertips, and you didn't even try to use any of it? What kind of sorcerer are you? Weren't you even curious? Of course I was curious, Malcolm, but my hunger for experimentation was tempered by reason. Imagine the damage I could have done if I had dared to experiment on my own. Yeah, like setting an entire army of mobs loose to clean the tower for you. I was an apprentice, so the sensible course of action was for me to follow the lead of my master. Any other course of action would have been illogical. I guess your actions make sense, now that you've explained them. I admit my actions may seem overly cautious, but that is the way of my people. Curiosity is tempered with careful analysis. However, ever since I left Lantern, I find I'm growing more bold in my quest for discovery. After all, I did come to the plague-infested city in order to chronicle a new disease, among other things. Among other things? What do you mean? Is there another reason you came to Neverwinter? I'm sorry, Malcolm. I should not have said anything about this to you. It is really a trivial matter, and you have far more important things on your mind. You can tell me, Boddyknock. Maybe it's something I can help you with. Ask me about this again later, Malcolm. I will be happy to continue my tale, but for now, we should focus on your mission for Lady Aerith. And indeed we should. Would you come a little closer, please? Yeah, that's much better. Now you're all in a semicircle.
I figured they'd drag.
I'll never lose my love for Tommy, for he is always on my mind. Anyway, thanks for staying through this extended version. I'll see you all next time.